Greetings and salutations. Rivers here. You know me, you love me, I love you. You are the best people in the universe. And I've got a story to tell you that you would never, ever believe about me. As you know, I loved my mission. I had wonderful spiritual experiences. I had wonderful companions, including two Finns that I absolutely loved and adored. And I made great friends. And I love the Finnish people, the Finnish saints, and the country of Finland is so gorgeous. Okay, with that as a backdrop, would you ever believe it if I told you that I won Stephen Wilford Harris, Veli Harris, as I would be referred to in Finland, that I was a photographer for a gypsy funeral. A what? A gypsy funeral. Now I need to give you a little bit of background. Gypsies, or they were called mustalaisia in Finland, were sort of like the blacks here in America. The Finns were not very nice to the gypsies. They were they were dark and kind of exotic looking. And the men wore these leather boots, and the women wore flowing, colorful skirts, and they stuck out like a sore thumb. And many of the Finns thought that they were shifty and dishonest, and maybe a few were, but maybe a few Finns were shifty and dishonest too. But sometimes the Finns would give us a bad time about how we treated the blacks here in America, which was not very good. And my retort back to them was, well, what about the way that you treat the gypsies here in Finland? They didn't have a good response to that. So anyway, as missionaries, we were on guard just a little bit about when we had dealings, and we didn't have a lot of dealings with the gypsies. It was rumored that they carried knives and they were quick to get in arguments. And so we kind of kept our distance a little bit. It wasn't like, we were saying bad things about them or anything like that. We just didn't have a whole lot of experience with them. Well, my companion at the time was a Finn from Helsinki, and his name was Markku Vepsalainen. And I was a senior companion for the first time, and he was my junior as a Finn. And we had a fantastic time together. We had lots of laughs, and we worked hard. Well, anyway, fall in Finland is absolutely gorgeous. The colors. And I was in a city called Kuopio, Finland, which is in the middle of the Lake District in Finland, and it is particularly beautiful. And if you know me that I love fall colors. And so I normally didn't do this, but on this one day I think it was late September or early October of 1975, I put my camera in my briefcase. I never really did that. I was hoping that I knew that we'd be walking through a cemetery nearby that was particularly beautiful with fall colors. And I wanted to take some pictures. So anyway, we're cutting through the cemetery, and it's a gorgeous day. And let me read to you kind of what happened. Okay, so as we were walking to our tracking area, we cut through this cemetery in the middle of the city. The cemetery had gentle rolling hills. In the distance, we spied a large group of gypsies singing and mourning. My companion wanted to have a closer look. Typically, I preferred the vantage point that we had. As we inched closer and closer to everyone in this crowd of gypsies, the whole crowd suddenly drew quiet, and they were all staring us down. Suddenly, 3 of the adult gypsy leaders, I'm sure they had knives and maybe a submachine gun or two, I was just joking, started walking towards us with menacing looks on their faces. I was wondering whether I might become suddenly incontinent. Finally, they reached us. We were frozen in our tracks, including my companion, and asked rather harshly, why we had not been there earlier. This took both of us by surprise. My companion, the native Finn, asked the man what he meant, and he said that they had asked the newspaper to send some photographers to film these funeral services earlier in the day, but nobody had showed up. We quickly explained to him that we weren't from the newspaper and we weren't photographers from the newspaper. They apologized to us and walked back towards the assembled mourning gypsies. My fears of becoming involuntarily incontinent somewhat subsided. My heart was racing. Suddenly, the three gypsies turned back towards us and asked us if we happened to have a camera. Well, as a matter of fact, I just happened to have one in my briefcase. And we became, for the next hour or so, photographers at a gypsy funeral. It was truly a serendipitous experience. Any missionary in my mission would have given their CTR ring and a lot of money to become a photographer at a gypsy funeral. And me and Veli Vepslainen had that opportunity. So we actually had gypsies pose for picture after picture, which they didn't like to have their pictures taken otherwise. The whole situation was fascinating to watch. All the gypsy kids were totally out of control, chasing each other around and around the funeral bier. And the gypsy parents employed some very, very heavy-handed, at least in the United States, corporal punishment, like whacking them. And so you can only imagine having this whole scene kind of laid out in front of us as I was a photographer at a gypsy funeral. You didn't know that about me, did you? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.